Are there some things you wish you knew before entering the corporate world? This is what I wish I knew. Be seeing you.
Welcome from Roots to Fruit. As a Canadian Christian Orthodox homeschooling mother that also works, many challenges arise. Come with me as I explore these issues, all of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's go on a journey together from roots to fruit.
Growing up, most parents had labor jobs. They worked really hard, which resulted in physical exhaustion. As a result, they wanted something better for us, something not so backbreaking. The thought was for us to finish school, go to post-secondary, preferably university, and it would guarantee us a good job. Then we can get married, buy a house, a car, and live a good life that would be better than previous generations. As much as I can see why our parents thought this, unfortunately, this is not what ended up happening. Most of us ended up having a harder time than previous generations and becoming mentally exhausted. I believe this is not just because of all the societal changes that we mentioned in previous episodes, but also because it was and still is taboo to talk about jobs and money. We don't really like to talk about struggles at work, and we certainly don't like to talk about finances. Perhaps these types of struggles makes us feel unsuccessful, inadequate, or that we're doing something wrong. But you see, if we can't talk about it, then how can we teach it? How can we improve, and how can we warn others of the risk? The majority of us ended up finishing post-secondary. As a result, we were older than our parents when we began our careers. We also had school debt, and well, since most of us spent our lives in school, we really didn't have time to learn about the real world or nurture relationships around us. This would also include finding a spouse, which is one of the many reasons why most of us got married later in life. As for jobs, well, very few of us started working during our teenage years. Though I feel that even if we gained job and life experience from our teenage years, it really didn't help much with obtaining a career job. Furthermore, the job market was saturated with individuals who had post-secondary. This means that post-secondary ended up being equivalent to what high school diploma was for previous generations, devaluing our efforts for a better life. Plus, there were recessions, and it was hard to get a job unless you had connections. Eventually, lots of us ended up in the corporate world, in fields that had nothing to do with our education, and even worse, you didn't even need the additional schooling. Again, devaluing our post-secondary education. Even though we felt something was wrong, we were told we had made it. We finally got that good job. We were apparently successful, and we were told to be grateful that we were lucky to land a great job in the office. Again, we did feel that something was wrong. Plus, most of us had no idea what our positions really were, or why we even needed post-secondary to do them. Side note, the buzzword for this type of job is now called a BS job. We also got benefits, vacation, and sick days, and we were told we should be grateful for all of it. Now, I will admit that having vacation and sick days is great, and I do not take it for granted. I also know that there are some industries that still don't have them, but it's a twisted mentality to think that we should be grateful to get some time off of work. Instead, our attention should be on making it consistent across all industries. So, for those who don't have vacation should get it, and those who have the privilege of having 3 months off should have their vacation reduced to match the rest of us. In general, in Canada, we work more with fewer days off in comparison with other Western countries. In my opinion, this should be corrected. And for the benefits, this isn't free. A good chunk comes off of our paychecks to pay for it, and most people don't really use all their benefits, or people overuse them since they already paid for it. In reality, we spend more money on them than we get from it. In the end, we're overworked, stressed out, underpaid, with minimal vacation, and lots of money goes towards benefits instead of our savings account. And we're told to just be grateful, regardless of how backwards thinking this is. Unless, of course, you're one of the few that get 3 months off, many sick days, are not allowed to get major raises with every contract. For those of us who got that office job, we had to convince ourselves that this is where we should be. Then the dust settled. This is when we started to see reality peering through. For me, it didn't take long to notice that something was not right. I noticed things like changing policies as the wind blew, people who had no qualifications being our managers, inappropriate clothing allowed for some, while others had to go by strict dress code, managers talking badly behind employees' backs, infidelity at social events being more important than building qualifications, work being piled on to a select few while others did arts and crafts, and so much more. In the beginning, I couldn't understand what I was seeing, so I asked others that were older than me and had more experience. A few were not shy about telling the truth. They told me that these places had become like high school. The nerds do all the work and get bullied. The popular kids get all the promotions regardless of whether they have an idea of what they're doing. The artsy kids are helping with all the social events, and the rest are just trying to survive. At first, I didn't believe them. After all, we were told that these were good jobs. So I found out the hard way that the corporate world is worse than high school. At least in high school, you can find your own group. You didn't have to play along. You can do your own thing. And when high school was done, you can go your own way. But in the corporate world, everyone has to follow the culture, regardless of how illegal or toxic it may be. In my opinion, the corporate culture is so toxic that the littlest things, such as rubbing someone the wrong way, disagreeing with someone, or not participating in events, could lead to consequences that could affect your career, perhaps even fired. If you find yourself in that situation, then you need to make a decision to either stay and take the punishment or leave. Quite often, these individuals are also told that if they don't like it, then they should just find another job. Neither one should be a decision one should have to make. It is ridiculous that one should have to be punished for another's bad behavior or to have to leave a job that they worked hard in. Even worse, if you decide to take the matter to HR, they will label you as a troublemaker, which means you'll be blacklisted in that company and possibly the entire industry. After all, the corporation is mother, the corporation is father, and you need to stay in line. These were the warnings that were told to me by others, with more experience, and ones that I experienced myself. At the beginning, I just couldn't comprehend it. We were told that we were successful if we worked in an office, and that these are the jobs that we should be achieving. Most people in these jobs had post-secondary, but were acting like children. How is this possible, since previous generations behaved like adults from their teenage years? How is this a sign of success? How is this progress? Once I learned these lessons, I realized I had learned the hard way, and it was definitely a shock. At first, I stayed because I was in denial. Then I thought the issue was with me, since we were told that these are good jobs. But then I woke up and I was appalled. So I started to speak out. This is when the corporation showed its true colors. But by that time, I had given so much of my time and my life, it became difficult to leave. It all felt like a trap. Those that once warned me were right, and those that told us that these were good jobs were wrong. Measuring someone's success in life by their job has now become hollow to me. It is also a place that doesn't value much of human experience. And if you don't like it, then they tell you to leave, which leaves you in a terrible place, especially since you are older. Here's an example of how one of our directors views success. At this point, he had been in the industry for less than 10 years and was made a director in his late 20s. He viewed this as being successful and looked down on us that didn't achieve such an accomplishment. One day, he made a comment to me and some of my coworkers that were also mothers, Christians, and over 30 years old, that we weren't successful since we had been in the same role for years and are not managers yet. He looked down on us and disregarded our experience. But to me, we were the ones that were successful, and here's why. First, no one becomes a director before the age of 30 without connections or favoritism. Second, we chose to focus on our families, having kids, and focusing on God than worldly things. We focus our time on learning skills we need to make our families' lives better, to be better wives, mothers, and Christians. To us, work is a paycheck to help with that. Also, this director had no interest in getting married or having family. To him, a family would just get in the way of his job. A few years later, he would admit how lonely and empty his life had become. To add to it, he was so focused on work that he had no time to learn on how to take care of himself. He had no idea how to cook or even boil water. Unfortunately, we had lost some good experienced managers because of him, since they were getting fed up with all of his inexperienced decisions, which made our jobs harder. My point is that we all have different definitions on success. The corporate world's definition seems to be measured by how compliant you are, and this is rewarded with promotions. Some people are happy this way, but for the most part, it takes out the human aspect of the individual. It gives meaning to those that are already broken. It also feels like it is purposely done. They want you away from everything that matters in life. They want you to be empty. They want to break you down so that they can build you up as they see fit. The corporate world is empty and soul-sucking. There is nothing tangible to your work. There's no building or creating something worth talking about. So why do you ask it's set up this way? Well, when you're in a state of brokenness, then you don't ask questions. You just do what you're told. And this is the key. We are trained from school to be obedient workers and not to question. When we get into the workforce, this is what we end up doing. Anyone that questions is shamed and punished without a second thought. Here are some things I wish someone had told me before entering such a world. Number 1. HR is not there to help you. They are there to protect the company, especially from employees that are speaking out. The moment you talk to them, they're building a case against you to fire you or to push you out. I recommend looking into the history of HR. Of course, the name has changed many times, but it's a concept that dates back to the French Revolution. Number 2, work friends are not your friends. Most of the people you work with are worse than situational friends. These are fake friendships, and very few are not. And how do you know? Well, wait until it's time for a promotion or if layoffs happen. This is when it will stand out that they are quick to backstab you or throw you under the bus. Another way you can find out is if you stand up against the issues at work. Most will not stand behind you, even if they do so in private. Number 3, the law is not going to protect you as much as you think. Unfortunately, it's extremely expensive to have someone help you when the law is being broken, which means that the law is not accessible to the average person. And these corporations know it, so they can break the law all they like and know that they can get away with it. Once in a while, the law will come down on them, but it's not enough for them to change, so they'll pay out and continue. Number 4, by far the biggest discrimination that I have witnessed is family status and age. These places do not like older, more experienced individuals, and they like them less if they don't toe the line. These places really dislike families as well. As mentioned previously, they view the corporation as family, and not your real family. Your family is getting in their way. Number 5, honesty and fairness are simply not a thing. We all feel that there's more than what they're telling us, and that is because there is. Each company has a hidden agenda, and they want the employees to toe the line. It is obvious, just not talked about, and if you do, they gaslight you. Number 6, they care more about you following orders without questioning than improving your skills, efficiency, or productivity. This sounds counterintuitive, but you can see the evidence of it with the majority of the companies and how they function these days. Number 7, being pushed out of the job or being fired is a real thing. This has happened to far too many people that were good at their jobs. Number 8, you cannot be yourself at all. This is a game to them that you must play, or there will be repercussions. This will include that you can't talk freely. Saying too much about your personal life can hinder your career growth. Having kids is a problem. Trying to improve workflows, showing intelligence, sharing experiences, and etc. Number 9, you are constantly being monitored, even if they say you're not. You're always on stage. This will include your appearance. They don't like it if you look too old or out of place. They also look at your desk. They don't like it if it's empty, since it shows that it's just a job for you, but they also don't like it messy. Number 10, favoritism and nepotism are all too common and increasing. They want cheerleaders, not qualified people. Number 11, promotions, performance review, and feedback are not honest. They go by favoritism, status, or if they want to push you out. So then what is the solution? Here are my recommendations. For one thing, I think we need to be more honest. To be able to have honest discussions about what is happening in these places. That would include people standing up and speaking out. When the law is being broken, it should be fixed immediately, and it should be accessible to everyone, regardless of income. Professionals should not be charging an arm and a leg just to ask questions, and it should not cost a good chunk of your income to have them implement the law. HR should not be a spying tool for the company. This is beyond dishonesty. Perhaps there should not even be an HR at all, and go back to having payroll and accounting. The petty high school games in the workforce should stop. We should start acting like adults again and stop with the childish behavior. We absolutely need to stand by those who are willing to speak out. We need to let people earn their positions and have a fair go. The discrimination should stop and families need to be priority again. The monitoring of people as if they are guilty should also stop. Instead, treat them like responsible adults. Let's bring back maturity, logic, reason, and efficiencies in the workforce. Above all, I think we really need to start caring about each other again. Care about what kind of society we're creating. Care about our families, our children, our friends, and humanity. When we see someone who needs help, we should help them. Thank you for your time. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your time. If you want to know more about me and my podcast, please visit me at my website for more information at FromRootsToFruit.podbean.com. May you be blessed from roots to fruit.